practice makes perfect. Raise your hand if at least once in your lifetime you've believed this to be true. For the longest time ever, I believed the more I practiced, the more perfect my art would become. But over the years, I've learned that perfection is an illusion. Not just an illusion, it's also a weight. And at some point, I had to ask myself, what would happen if I simply let it go? Hi, I'm Priyadarshini, and this is a quiet space for artists and creatives who are learning to move through self-doubt, comparison, and burnout. Today, I want to talk about a weight many of us carry: the need for our art or our craft to be perfect. Perfectionism doesn't always look like an obsession with tidy lines and polished edges. Sometimes it hides in hesitation, in abandoning projects halfway through, or in not starting at all because the idea of it not turning out right feels unbearable. For me, it started early. Praise for clean, beautiful drawings. One extra mark for neat handwriting. And slowly, I began to associate value with how finished my writing or my art looked, how close it came to how others saw it or what I imagined it to be in my mind. And what about the messy drafts, the half-drawn characters, the experimental pieces that didn't make sense? Well, I tucked them away and I told myself they weren't real art. But you know what? Real art lives in those very pieces. In the scratches, the awkward proportions, the lines that go somewhere unexpected. That is where honesty lives, our raw feelings. And that's where growth happens. Perfectionism is sneaky. It fills our heads with a whole boatload of lies. It tells us we are aiming high, that we are striving for the best. But often it is just fear in disguise. Fear of failure, fear of being seen, fear that if we don't make something perfect, then maybe we aren't talented enough. And over the course of time, I've learned that perfection can never drive creativity. On the contrary, it paralyzes creativity. I didn't just wake up one day and stop caring. It happened very slowly. But here's what helped: I started finishing things. Even when they felt clumsy, even when I wasn't sure what the outcome would be, and even if they didn't really match the complete picture in my head. I started sharing things that felt a little too raw. Not everything, but just enough to remind myself I didn't have to be flawless to be worthy. I stopped zooming in, literally and metaphorically. I let my pieces breathe. I took a step back. I saw them as a whole rather than focus on one particular undesirable detail. These days, I create with a whole different intention. I no longer create just because I want to impress my Instagram followers or because I want to be perfect. Most often than not, I create to explore, to learn something about myself through every mark I make. And I found a strange kind of freedom in that. If you've been held back by perfectionism, if you've hesitated to create or share, or simply sit back and enjoy the process, I want you to know you don't have to be perfect to make something meaningful. You don't have to earn your place as an artist by doing things just right. Your art can be messy, it can be unfinished, it can be raw, and you are allowed to show up as you are, even when the lines aren't perfect, especially when the lines aren't perfect.